Hey, Helene, and welcome to your deep dive, all about home office deductions.
Yeah, this should be a good one.
We're tackling this topic because taxes, can be a real headache.
Absolutely, especially when you're self-employed.
Right, especially when you're self-employed and you're trying to figure out all the ins and outs
hmm
of what you can and can't deduct.
hmm
So don't worry, though. We are here to break it all down, hopefully help you save some money in the process.
Yeah.
You sent in some really great questions, Helene,
Yes, you did.
and we've got quite a stack of sources here to help us unpack all this stuff.
Yeah, we do.
We've got the actual tax code itself, some really interesting court
It
cases.
gets juicy.
Oh, yeah. And even some real-life examples to
Mm,
bring it all home.
yes.
So let's jump right in.
All right.
What's interesting about this whole area of home office deductions is how much it's evolved over time.
Yeah. Before 1976, deducting home office expenses, it was a lot more straightforward.
Really?
hmm You just had to show that the expenses were appropriate and helpful for your business. But, you can imagine that that led to some pretty creative interpretations.
Oh, I bet.
And Congress decided to step in.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Mm.
So to rein things in, they introduced Section 280A of the tax code, specifically targeted at these deductions,
Yes, they did.
related to using your home for business.
Exactly. Section 280A, you can think of it as Congress's way of kind of drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah.
Making sure that, these deductions are for legitimate business expenses, not just everyday living costs.
Right.
And this brings us to the three core conditions that you need to meet to qualify for this deduction.
Okay, lay it on me.
All right, so we've got exclusive use, regular use, and use as a place of business.
Okay, let's break those down one by one,
Sounds good.
starting with exclusive use.
Okay.
Now, Helene, I know you've mentioned that you've carved out a dedicated space in your home for work,
Right.
but what does exclusive use really mean?
Right. Good question.
Can you use that space for anything else?
Right. Or does it need to be strictly business?
Yeah, is there any wiggle room there?
So exclusive use means exactly what it says.
Oh,
The space has to be used solely for business purposes. No mixing business with personal activities.
got it.
So, for example, a dedicated office room would qualify,
Okay.
but say a dining table that you also use as a workspace that wouldn't.
So, Helene, thinking about your setup,
Yeah,
do you ever do anything else in your home office space besides work?
right. Like, do you ever find yourself folding laundry in there or...
Yeah, catching up on your favorite show.
Exactly, because even seemingly small personal activities can kind of jeopardize that exclusive use requirement.
Oh, really?
The IRS, they're looking for a clear separation between your business and your personal life.
Okay, so no multitasking allowed in the home office.
You got it.
All right, well, let's move on to regular use then.
Okay.
How much time do you actually need to spend in your home office for it to count? Is there like a minimum number of hours per week or anything like that?
So the IRS doesn't give us like a set number of hours. The key is that the use needs to be consistent and substantial.
Okay.
It can't just be like a random work session here or there.
Right.
They want to see that you're using this space regularly as part of your, normal business operations.
Got it. So, Helene, if you're consistently using your home office space for work tasks, you're probably good on that front.
Most likely.
Let's tackle the third condition, place of business.
All right.
This one seems like it could get a little tricky,
Yeah.
especially since you mentioned that you also travel to client locations
Hey.
for work.
Yes, you're right. This one definitely has some nuances to it.
Okay.
So Section 280A outlines three ways to meet that place of business requirement.
Okay.
First, it can be your principal place of business.
Okay.
But we'll dig into that a little bit more later because that can be a whole topic in itself,
Right.
especially for somebody like you, Helene, who works from multiple locations.
Right.
Second, if you regularly meet with clients or customers in your home office, then you're good. And finally, if your office is in like a separate structure,
Okay.
detached from your home, like a studio or a workshop, then it automatically qualifies.
This program is brought to you by iFindTaxPro, where tax and legal compliance are made clear and management of client communications simple.
Yes.
iFindTaxPro.com is a platform for professionals and their clients, open to everyone.
Check it out.
Okay, so I see where we're headed here. That principal place of business condition
Yeah.
is what we really need to unpack,
Yes, we do.
especially since you, Helene, are working from home and going to different client sites.
Right. How do we determine which one is actually principal in the eyes of the IRS?
Yeah.
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And it's often the one that causes the most confusion.
I bet.
Unfortunately, the tax code itself doesn't give us a clear-cut definition.
Oh, great.
There's no simple formula, and a lot of times it requires a judgment call
Okay.
based on your individual circumstances. But thankfully, we have a landmark Supreme Court case commissioner, V. Solomon.
Oh, a Supreme Court case.
Yes, I love it.
This one really sheds some light on this whole principal place of business dilemma.
I'm ready.
All right, so Dr. Solomon was an anesthesiologist
Okay.
who worked at multiple hospitals,
Okay.
but he didn't have a designated office at any of them.
Right.
And he also had a home office where he did, like, administrative tasks for his practice.
It's a little familiar.
Yeah, a little bit like your situation, Helene.
Yeah.
So the IRS, they argued that the hospitals were his principal place of business
Okay.
because that's where he actually, like, treated patients,
Makes sense.
the core of his work.
Right.
But Dr. Solomon, he claimed that his home office was principal
Okay.
because it was essential for managing his practice.
So is a battle between where the main service was delivered versus where the administrative tasks were handled.
Exactly.
So what did the Supreme Court decide?
So they actually sided with the IRS,
Interesting.
emphasizing that the hospitals were his principal place of business.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, what was their reasoning?
What factors did they consider to be like the most important?
Yeah.
So they highlighted that determining this principal place of business, it's not about finding like the only place of business.
Right.
It's about conducting this comparative analysis
Okay.
of all the locations where you work. And they emphasize two key factors in this analysis. The first being the relative importance of the functions performed at each location.
Okay.
Basically, where do the core income-generating activities take place?
Okay.
And second, the time spent at each location.
Okay.
If you're spending way more time at one location, that's a strong indicator of its principal status.
So it's not just about how much time you spend in each place, but also what you're doing there.
Exactly.
This is where it gets really interesting for you, Helene.
Right.
If you are primarily providing services at your clients' locations,
Yes.
those might actually be considered more important
Right.
than your home office for tax purposes.
Right.
Even if you're spending hours each day on administrative tasks at home.
Exactly. It's about weighing those different aspects of your work.
Okay.
So to illustrate this, let's dig a little bit deeper into the specifics of the Solomon case.
Okay, let's paint a clearer picture for Helene here.
Okay, so as we mentioned, Dr. Solomon was an anesthesiologist. He worked at several hospitals, and he was spending a good chunk of his time, about 30 to 35 hours a week, providing patient care.
Okay.
Didn't have an office at any of these hospitals.
Right.
So he set up a dedicated space in his home where he was spending an additional 2 to 3 hours each day,
Okay.
doing things like contacting patients in hospitals, handling billing, staying up to date on medical knowledge.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, those tasks, they were undoubtedly important, for the smooth operation of his practice.
Of course.
But the Supreme Court, they emphasized that the hospitals,
Yeah.
with their, specialized equipment and facilities,
Right.
that is where he actually performed the core income-generating activity,
Right.
administering anesthesia and treating patients.
Makes
That's where, the essence of his practice resided.
Right. So even though his home office was vital for the administrative side of his business, the place where the core service was delivered
Exactly.
ultimately carried more weight.
Yes. It's about identifying where that real value is being created.
Right.
Right. And the Supreme Court also considered, the amount of time spent at each location.
Right.
So those 30 to 35 hours at the hospitals, that significantly outweigh the 10 to 15 hours
Right.
he spent in his home office, further solidifying their decision that the hospitals, not his home,
Right.
constituted his principal place of business.
That Solomon case is a great example of how this comparative analysis works in practice.
It is.
Helene, it's not about declaring any one space as your only office,
Right.
but it's about understanding the relative importance of each location within your overall business operations.
Yes, and even after the Solomon case, some gray areas still remained.
Oh, no.
Luckily, we have another case that provides further clarification
Okay.
and offers a bit of a cautionary tale.
Oh, I love a cautionary tale.
Especially when it comes to, those home renovations you're considering.
Oh, tell me more.
All right, so this case, Kevin Wittesick v. Commissioner, it's relatively recent,
What?
involves an attorney, Mr. Wittesick, who claimed substantial home office deductions
Like,
for renovations he made to his historic mansion.
wait, a mansion?
Yes, a mansion.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He argued that these renovations were essential business expenses.
Right.
But the tax court wasn't entirely convinced.
This program is brought to you by iFindTaxPro, where tax and legal compliance are made clear and management of client communication simple.
Yes.
iFindTaxPro.com is a platform for professionals and their clients open to everyone. I have a feeling this case is about to get really interesting.
It does.
So
Well-
tell me, what are some of the key points that came out of it?
Okay.
Especially those that might be relevant to Helene.
So there are two big takeaways here. The first being that the court emphasized the distinction between capital expenses and repairs.
Okay.
Not all home improvements are deductible as business expenses.
Oh,
Some, like major renovations, they're considered capital improvements.
okay.
And they need to be depreciated over time
Okay.
rather than deducted all at once.
Got it.
And second, even if an expense is deductible, you can only deduct the portion
Right.
that's related to your actual business use.
Right.
So the court, they meticulously examined the percentage of Mr. Wittesick's mansion
Right.
that was used exclusively for his law practice.
Okay.
And they found it to be significantly lower than he had claimed.
So even if you have a legitimate home office, it doesn't mean you get to write off
Exactly.
like lavish renovations on your entire home
Right.
as business expenses.
It's a good reminder for everyone.
Right.
The IRS is looking for that clear connection
Right.
between the expenses and the actual business use of the space.
And to make this case even more cautionary,
Yeah.
Mr. Wittesick was actually convicted of tax evasion.
Yes, he was.
Wow.
Which just highlights the importance of being accurate and honest
Yeah.
when claiming those home office deductions.
Wow. That adds another layer to our discussion.
It does.
Helene, I know tax rules can seem incredibly complex.
Yes, they can.
But cases like this really underscore why it's crucial to understand them. And when in doubt,
Yeah.
to seek expert advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes having that expert guidance can make all the difference, both for your peace of mind and the health of your business.
Exactly. They can save you time, money, and potential headaches down the road.
Absolutely. And speaking of making things easier,
Yes.
this program is brought to you by iFindTaxPro, where tax and legal compliance are made clear and management of client communication simple.
Yes.
iFindTaxPro.com is a platform for professionals and their clients open to everyone.
Check it out.
So now that we've kind of laid the groundwork
Yeah.
with these court cases,
Yes.
let's translate all this legal jargon
Yes. Let's do it.
into some practical tips that you, Helene, can use to navigate these home office deductions effectively and confidently.
I like it. Let's get practical.
Let's take all this information
Mm-hmm.
and turn it into actionable advice that will help you and all our listeners
Yes.
avoid any unwanted drama with the IRS.
Nobody wants that.
Okay, Helene, let's dive into those practical tips.
All right.
What are some key things you should keep in mind when it comes to claiming these home office deductions?
So first and foremost, documentation is key.
Okay.
You need to keep meticulous records of all your expenses,
Okay.
including what you purchased when you purchased it
Yeah.
and its specific purpose.
Okay.
This is going to help create a clear paper trail
Yeah.
that demonstrates, the legitimacy of your business expenses,
Right.
especially if you ever get audited.
So then it's not enough to just like shove those receipts in a shoebox somewhere.
No, it is not.
You need a system.
You need a system.
Maybe it's a spreadsheet accounting software or even good old-fashioned folders.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah. But make it easy to access and understand.
Yes.
The better organized you are, the smoother this whole process will be.
Absolutely. Next, you want to maintain a strict separation between your business and personal expenses.
Oh.
Think of it like building a wall
Okay.
between your business and your personal finances.
Why?
Having separate bank accounts and credit cards specifically for your business can make a world of difference.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how mixing those could create a real headache.
Oh, yeah.
Come tax time.
Yes.
Now, what about calculating the percentage of your home that's used for business?
Right.
I know you mentioned you're planning some renovations. Does
Yeah.
that come into play at all?
It definitely does.
Okay, yeah.
When you're calculating that percentage, focus on the square footage,
Okay.
especially if you have rooms that vary in size.
Right.
Having a clear floor plan
Okay.
or accurate measurements of your home office space
Right.
can be super helpful.
Okay.
And remember those renovations you're considering? Be mindful of the distinction between repairs and capital expenses that we talked about earlier.
Right. Not all home improvements can be deducted as business expenses.
Exactly.
So if you're going to replace a broken window in your office,
Right.
that's likely deductible as a repair.
Most likely.
But if you're adding a whole new wing to your house and designating part of it as an office,
Right.
that's a capital improvement.
Yes.
That needs to be depreciated over time.
Exactly. And even with deductible expenses, remember that you can only deduct the portion
Right.
that's related to your business use.
Right.
So, for example, if you're painting your entire house,
Okay.
but only 20% of it is used for your business,
Right.
you can only deduct 20% of those painting costs.
It's all about being proportional
Yes.
and making sure that you can justify every deduction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a lot of information to digest.
It is.
And even with all these tips, navigating these rules can still feel pretty daunting.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
So what's the best piece of advice you can give to someone like Helene
Mm-hmm.
who wants to make sure that you're doing everything by the book?
Honestly, don't be afraid to consult a tax professional.
Yeah.
They can be your best friend in this complex world of taxes.
Yeah.
Especially when you're self-employed and dealing with these home office deductions.
Right.
They can help you take advantage of all the legitimate deductions that you're entitled to,
Right.
while also making sure that you are staying compliant
Yes.
with all the IRS regulations.
I completely agree.
Mm,
Sometimes having that expert guidance can make all the difference.
it can.
Now, speaking of making things easier,
Yeah.
this program is brought to you by iFindTaxPro, where tax and legal compliance are made clear and management of client communication simple.
Yes.
iFindTaxPro.com is a platform for professionals and their clients, open to everyone.
Check it out.
Okay, so now that we've laid the groundwork with these court cases, let's crystallize those key takeaways.
Sounds good.
It's easy to get lost in the details, so I want to make sure that these important points stick with you, Helene.
Okay, good plan.
First and foremost, home office deductions can be a valuable tax benefit, but only if you understand the rules.
Exactly, and play by them.
Right. No cutting corners or stretching the truth.
No, absolutely. Honesty is the best policy, especially when it comes to the IRS.
Right.
They have a knack for spotting inconsistencies,
Oh, yeah, I bet.
and it's not worth the risk.
So rule number one, be honest and accurate.
Yes.
What else should Helene keep in mind?
Remember that principal place of business test?
Yeah.
It's all about that comparative analysis we talked about.
Right.
You need to carefully consider all your work locations, the relative importance of the work that you're doing at each one,
Right.
and the time you spend there.
Okay.
Don't just assume that your home office automatically qualifies as principal.
So Helene, think back to the Salaman case.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, where are you actually providing your core services?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you generating the majority of your income?
Good questions.
Those are the questions that can help you determine your true principal place of business.
Right.
And finally, never underestimate the power of good record keeping.
Yes, this is so important.
Keeping your business and personal expenses separate.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining meticulous records
Yes.
are absolutely essential
They are.
for claiming these home office deductions successfully and confidently.
It's all about setting yourself up for success and avoiding any unnecessary stress or scrutiny down the road.
Helene, think of it this way. Detailed records. They're your safety net.
Yes, they are.
They provide evidence to support your deductions.
Right.
And they can give you that peace of mind.
Exactly.
Now, Helene, we know you're a savvy entrepreneur,
Yes, you are.
and we always love to leave our listeners with some food for thought.
Yes.
So let's move beyond just focusing on the deductions themselves.
Okay.
Think about how you can actually optimize your home office environment to work for you.
That's a great point.
We've talked about the rules, the deductions, the potential pitfalls. But what about the positive side of having a home office?
Right.
How can you make it a space where you actually enjoy working?
That is such an important point.
Right.
It's not just about, being compliant with the IRS.
Right.
It's about creating an environment where you can thrive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Helene, as you're planning those renovations, think about what would make your home office truly work for you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's experimenting with different lighting, investing in ergonomic furniture,
Right.
or even bringing in some plants to create a more calming atmosphere.
I love that.
Think about it this way. When you feel good in your workspace,
Yeah,
it shows in your work.
it does.
It's about creating a space that is both functional and inspiring.
I love that.
And Helene, sometimes the best way to really understand these complex rules
Mm-hmm.
is to actually apply them in a practical way.
Yeah.
So as you're setting up your home office, think back to those 3 key conditions we discussed.
Yes.
Exclusive use, regular use, and place of business.
Good idea.
Are you setting those clear boundaries
Mhm.
between your work life and your
Wow.
personal life?
Yes.
Are you using the space consistently for business activities?
It's a great way to connect the dots.
By incorporating those principles into your daily routine,
Yeah.
you're not only creating a great workspace,
Right.
you're also naturally staying on the right side of the IRS.
It's a win-win.
Right.
And it all comes back to that idea we talked about earlier. Knowledge is power.
Right.
Now you have the knowledge to make those smart decisions about your home office,
Yes.
both for the benefit of your business and for your own peace of mind.
And remember, Helene, if any other questions pop up
Yeah.
as you navigate this world of home office deductions, don't hesitate to send them our way.
Please do.
We are always here to help you dive deeper
Yeah,
and find the clarity you need.
absolutely. We love tackling these tax topics
Yes, we do.
and giving you the information and confidence to run your business successfully.
Absolutely. And speaking of resources,
Yeah.
this program is brought to you by iFindTaxPro, where tax and legal compliance are made clear and management of client communications simple.
Check them out.
iFindTaxPro.com is a platform for professionals and their clients open to everyone. So, Helene, as you continue building your business, remember you are not alone on this journey.
You are not.
We are here to support you every step of the way.
Every step.
Until next time, keep those questions coming.
Yes.
And happy home officing.
Happy home officing. Now, before we move on, let's circle back and crystallize those key takeaways that we've covered so far.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost in the details.
True.
So I want to make sure these important points, they really stick with you, Helene.
Okay, good plan. First and foremost, home office deductions can be a valuable tax benefit,
Yes.
but only if you understand the rules.
Exactly, and play by them.
Right, no cutting corners or stretching the truth.
No, absolutely. Honesty is the best policy, especially when it comes to the IRS.
Right, they have a way of spotting inconsistencies.
Oh, yeah, they do. They have a knack for it.
And it's not worth the risk.
It's really not.
Okay, so rule number one, be honest
Yes.
and be accurate. What else should Helene keep in mind?
Remember that principal place of business test?
Yes.
It's all about that comparative analysis that we talked about.
Right.
You need to carefully consider all your work locations, the relative importance of the work that you're doing at each one,
Yeah.
and the time you spend there.
Okay.
Don't just assume that your home office automatically qualifies as principal.
So, Helene, think back to that Solomon case.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, where are you actually providing your core services? Where are you generating the majority of your income?
Good questions.
Those are the questions that can help you determine your true principal place of business.
Exactly.
And finally, never underestimate the power of good record keeping.
Yes, this is so important.
Keeping your business and personal expenses separate, maintaining meticulous records
Yes.
are absolutely essential
They are.
for claiming these home office deductions successfully and confidently.
It's all about setting yourself up for success and avoiding any unnecessary stress or scrutiny down the road.
Helene, think of it this way. Detailed records. They're your safety net.
Yes, they are.
They provide evidence to support your deductions.
Right.
And they can give you that peace of mind.
Exactly.
Now, Helene, we know you're a savvy entrepreneur,
Yes, you are.
and we always love to leave our listeners with some food for thought.
You do.
So let's move beyond just focusing on the deductions themselves.
Okay, I like it.
Think about how you can actually optimize your home office environment to work for you.
That's a great point. Yeah, it can be more than just a place to, get your work done.
Right.
It can be a place that you actually enjoy being,
Exactly.
and that makes you more productive.
Right. It's not just about getting the job done. It's about enjoying the process too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you're planning those renovations, think about what would make your home office really work for you.
Yeah, like what would make you excited to go in there and work?
Yeah?
Maybe it's experimenting with different lighting, getting some nice lamps.
Oh, yeah. Good lighting is key.
It is so important.
Or maybe it's investing in some ergonomic furniture.
Yes, a good chair can make all the difference.
It really can. I mean, you're spending so much time there.
Exactly.
You want it to be comfortable.
And you don't want to end up with back problems or anything.
Right,
Or
exactly.
even just bringing in some plants.
Oh, I love plants.
Yeah, they can really brighten up a space.
And they can really create a more calming atmosphere.
Absolutely. It's all about creating a space that feels good to you.
Yeah, think about it this way. When you feel good in your workspace,
Mm-hmm.
it shows in your work.
It really does.
You're more productive. You're more creative.
And you're just happier overall.
Exactly. And, Helene, sometimes the best way to really understand these complex rules
Yeah,
is to actually apply them in a practical way.
that's a good point.
So as you're setting up your home office, think back to those 3 key conditions we discussed. Exclusive use,
Mm-hmm.
regular use, and place of business.
Good idea.
Are you setting those clear boundaries?
Yeah. Are you like closing the door and
Yeah.
saying, okay, this is work time?
Yeah, between your work life and your personal life, are you using that space consistently for those business activities?
It's a great way to connect the dots.
Right. By incorporating those principles into your daily routine,
Mm.
you're not only creating a great workspace,
Right.
you're also naturally staying on the right side of the IRS.
It's a win-win.
Right.
And it all comes back to that idea we talked about earlier, knowledge is power.
Right.
Now you have the knowledge to make those smart decisions about your home office,
Yeah.
both for the benefit of your business and for your own peace of mind.
And Helene, remember, if any other questions pop up
Yeah.
as you navigate this world of home office deductions, don't hesitate to send them our way.
Please do. We're always here to help.
We're always here to help you dive deeper
Yes.
and find the clarity that you need.
Absolutely. We love tackling these tax topics
We do.
and giving you the information and confidence to run your business successfully.
Absolutely. And speaking of resources,
Yes.
this program is brought to you by iFindTaxPro, where tax and legal compliance are made clear and management of client communication simple.
Check them out.
iFindTaxPro.com is a platform for professionals and their clients, open to everyone. So, Helene, as you continue building your business, remember, you are not alone on this journey.
You're not.
We are here to support you every step of the way.
Every step of the way.
Until next time, keep those questions coming and happy home officing.
Happy home officing.